Hello and welcome to this presentation delivered on behalf of the National Apprenticeship Service. I'm going to take you through a very quick overview of what apprenticeships are and how to go about finding vacancies. So an apprenticeship is a blend of a job and also a qualification, and that enables the apprentice to spend 80% of their time working and gaining technical skills and valuable work experience, and 20% of their time studying towards a qualification and being involved in learning. And the qualification and the learning is directly related to the job that the apprentice is doing. This is a real job with a real employer. The apprentice receives a contract of employment and is treated exactly the same as any other member of staff at that business. Because of that, they receive a salary, and the current minimum salary for apprentices is £4.15 per hour. But that doesn't mean that if you do an apprenticeship, that's how much you'll get paid. Salaries can range right up to the low 20,000s for some of the higher in degree apprenticeships. They are for everyone, so a student may wish to leave school at the end of year 11 and move straight into an apprenticeship, or they may prefer to go to college and move into an apprenticeship at the end of year 13. There is no upper age limit. As long as anybody is aged 16 or over and not currently in full-time education, they can start an apprenticeship. In all cases, there are no fees to pay by the apprentice for the cost of their learning. That's always funded by the employer or a combination of employer and government. So the role of the employer then is to support the apprentice in the workplace and give them tasks and activities that enable them to develop the technical skills that they need, but also crucially contribute to the business. At the start of the apprenticeship, the employer recognises that it's probably going to be the apprentice's first job. Certainly their first full-time job, so those tasks and activities at the very beginning are going to be fairly straightforward. The apprentice will always be supported in the workplace, at the very least by having a line manager or a team manager, and in many cases having an additional mentor as well, which is quite often a former apprentice. What employers can't do is they're not teachers, they're not trainers, they haven't got the skills and expertise in-house to deliver what's required to gain the qualification, so we need an apprenticeship training provider. That could be a local further education college, that could be an independent training provider who specialises in apprenticeships, or it could even be a university when it comes to degree apprenticeships. Whoever that training provider is, it's their role, it's their responsibility to ensure that the apprentice receives the teaching and learning that's required to gain and achieve the apprenticeship qualification. There are a number of different ways of that learning being delivered, but the two most common ways are classroom learning, where the apprentice will go to work 4 days a week and attend the training provider 1 day a week, participate in classroom or workshop learning alongside other apprentices from other businesses who are doing the same apprenticeship subject as the apprentice. The other really common method is workplace learning, where someone from the training provider goes out to the apprentice's workplace and delivers that training on a one-to-one basis. That's nearly always blended with online learning, as most training providers simply don't have enough members of staff to send one apprentice out every single week to one member of staff out every single week to every single apprentice that they work with. So there's a lot of self-study involved for the apprentice using that method. But again, they'll constantly be supported throughout that process. There are nearly 600 different types of apprenticeships out there, so these 15 examples don't really do it justice and are barely the tip of the iceberg. All those traditional apprenticeships that you may be thinking of where you hear the word apprenticeship, so construction roles, engineering roles, hairdressing, childcare, motor vehicle, they all still exist. They've been established for a number of years and are well-regarded successful routes into long and fulfilling careers. So the only changes that have been made is that the qualifications are updated to reflect modern working practices. What you've got now are jobs that historically you may have had to gain a degree or had to gain a professional qualification, or didn't have any qualification at all. So if you think of jobs like business administration, now there's an apprenticeship role related to that job that helps them underpin the skills that the apprentice is working towards. Jobs that required a degree in the past, so civil engineering, surveying, jobs in IT are a huge growing sector in Greater Manchester. You can now do these as a degree apprentice. So a young person has the choice of going to full-time university to reach that career, or now going down the apprenticeship route. These are an example of some of the very large employers who recruit apprentices from across schools and colleges in the whole of the Greater Manchester area. This certainly isn't all of them. It's just a little bit of a snapshot, and I've used some logos that hopefully you'll recognise as large multinational brands. These organisations might take on 20, 40, 100 apprentices every single year across different functions within their business. So if I use Network Rail as an example, they'll take on rail engineers, but they'll also take on accounts apprentices into their finance team. For every one of these logos you recognise, there are hundreds of smaller businesses whose logos you perhaps wouldn't recognise, but they offer fantastic apprenticeship opportunities as well, and they might only take on 5 apprentices a year, 2 apprentices a year, 1 apprentice every other year, depending upon their business need. But the qualification is exactly the same irrespective of the business size. So if you're doing customer service apprenticeship with Greater Manchester Police, that qualification is exactly the same as what the apprentice who's working in a local GP surgery on reception would be doing. Whilst the 2 jobs are different, the qualification is the same. Apprenticeships come in different levels, and it's worth drawing a quick comparison between school and college qualifications that you may be more familiar with and the levels of apprenticeships. So intermediate apprenticeships, in terms of how challenging the qualification is to achieve, is equivalent to 5 GCSEs at grade 4 and above. Advanced apprenticeships are equivalent to 2 A levels or a BTEC or the new T levels. Higher apprenticeships actually go up through 4 levels: HNC, HND, level 6 degree, level 7 masters. And we also have degree apprenticeships at level 6 and 7 as well. The difference between a degree apprenticeship at level 6 and a higher apprenticeship at level 6 is on the degree apprenticeship, the qualification is a degree. On the higher apprenticeship, it's equivalent to a degree. In terms of entry points, for those students in year 11 who are looking to progress into an apprenticeship, then all of the intermediate apprenticeships and 90% of the advanced apprenticeships are suitable for them to apply for. For students in year 13 who are looking to progress into apprenticeships, instead of going to university, then the higher in degree apprenticeships are typically aimed at them, as well as a small proportion of the advanced apprenticeships. Degree apprenticeships then are a part-time degree, and the same principle applies. The apprentice will work 80% of the time and study 20% of the time, and that 20% study is with a university. They have some financial benefits. First of all, salaries for degree apprenticeships seem to start in the mid-teens and go upwards from there in Greater Manchester. Second financial benefit is the apprentice doesn't pay any university tuition fees. That is funded by the employer and or government. They take longer. No one expects an apprentice to do a full degree inside 3 years when they're working 80% of the time. So they're spread out between 4 and 6 years in length. Whilst that seems like a long time, that is job security for that period of time. There'll be job contracts to cover the length of that apprenticeship as a bare minimum. And the apprentice is gaining all that work experience. They're studying towards a degree that they're not paying for. They have all the same university and National Union of Student benefits that a full-time student does. Parents and students can go to the same graduation ceremony as the full-time students do when the time is right. But best of all, the degree apprentice doesn't need to find a job at the end of their degree, because if I'm your employer who's paid for a degree, paid a salary and invested other time, resources in that degree apprentice over those 4, 5 or 6 years, then they're a valuable asset to my business. I'm not going to want to let them go at the end of that degree apprenticeship. Whereas a full-time student, once they finish their degree, would then have to start entering recruitment processes to find work. So I think that's the crucial advantage of the degree apprenticeship. In terms of looking for vacancies, of course, a potential apprentice could apply direct to an employer. They could contact the colleges, training providers or universities who deliver the apprenticeships to understand what opportunities they can produce. But one way I'd certainly recommend is the government's Find an Apprenticeship website. It's a live job vacancy website just for apprenticeships. If we look right now in January, February, we'll tend to find that a lot of the vacancies are to start in January, February and March, with a few ready to start in August or September. As we move forward and we get to March, April, May, more and more vacancies to start in August or September 2021 will become available for current year 11s and current year 13s to apply for. They can register on there, they can search on there, and they can make applications through that system as well. If you have any further questions, first port of call is always the school or college's careers advisor or careers leader. 99% of the time you will find that they'll know the answer to all your questions. If there is anything they can't answer, they can certainly contact myself, who can get back to them. Thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.